Okay, today we'll be going over, today is the 6th, and we will be going over comparing and ordering numbers. Now, hopefully you've printed this out. If not, then just do the notes the best you can, follow along however you see fit, alright? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half, hamburger style, right? And then that way, what I can do is I can open it up like so, right? And work on the problems. We're not going to glue it into our notebook just yet. We'll do that in a moment. So I'm going to go to my next page. For me, that is page number 11. I'm going to be right here for page number 11. Alright, and what we're doing is we are going over, so on this side, right, so it's going to glue into your notebook like so, with this side down, and you can flip this side over like this, right? And we're going to go over this first. Okay, so when we're comparing numbers, it's pretty simple with comparing. So this would be if we're having to compare like one fraction to another, or square root of 2 compared to, is the square root of 2 less than or greater than the square root of 2.4? Right, or is the square root of 2 less than or greater than 3/8? Right, so we're trying to figure out what side is less than, what side is greater than. So the first step is, when we see comparing numbers, is we need to convert everything to a decimal. Convert everything to a decimal. Once you've done that, then the second thing is you need to match the number of decimal places. So if one has 3 and one has 2, match it to the larger one. So match the number of decimal places. Then you're going to compare them. So that's where you would use the less than, greater than, or equal to symbols. Now when we're talking about ordering numbers, so this is what they'll do. They'll give you a list of numbers, right, with commas separating them. And then what you have to do is you have to put them in order from either least to greatest or greatest to least. So the first thing you need to do, draw a line through the commas. This way you can separate out the numbers, and it'll make it easier for you to differentiate between them. Once you've done that, convert everything to a decimal. Next thing is to put them in order. Now you're either going to be from the least to the greatest, or the greatest to the least. Always, 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 always underline the order. That way there is no confusion for you. And then step number 3 is to rewrite in the original form. Okay, so now we're going to go over a few examples. So let's work on this side first. We're going to look at these numbers here. So I have 2/3 and I have 5/8. So we need to compare 2/3 to 5/8. Well, we need to convert those to decimals first. Alright, so we're going to take our calculator. Okay, now to do that, I'm going to take 2 and divide it by 3. That is how you turn a fraction to a decimal. You take the numerator and you divide it by the denominator. Okay, so 2 divided by 3 is 0.66666666666667, so on, so on, so on, so on, and so forth. It's repeating that value. So I'm going to put it to 3 decimal places because 3 is usually a pretty good number to choose from. So we say 667. 5/8, we'll do 5 divided by 8, and I am getting 0.625. Okay, so on the left side I have 0.667, on the right side I have 0.625. So 0.667 obviously is going to be greater than 0.625. So here in the middle I'm going to put a greater than symbol. Okay, number 2, we have 0.03 compared to 0.003. Okay, well, 0.03 is going to be greater than 0.003 because this would be the more leading zeros in front of the number, the smaller the value the decimal is. Okay, number 3, we have 1.1 versus the square root of 2. So we're going to get out our calculator again. Okay, on the calculator, you're going to hit second, and then there's this button down here that says x squared. Okay, you press x squared, and that's going to give you square root. Type 2 in there, and it'll give you this. Now, I only have one decimal here, so I'm going to match the number of decimals, so I'm going to use 1.4. And obviously 1.1 would be less than 1.4. Okay, now I'm going to give you time. You go ahead and do these bottom 3 on your own. Alright, so now that you've done the bottom 3 on your own, we're going to move on. So this next part, we'll write the numbers in order from least to greatest. So again, underline the order, least to greatest. So we're going from least to the greatest. So the smallest number should be on the left, greatest number should be on the right. So let's take a look at number 7. We're going to draw a line between them, that way I can differentiate between them a little easier. And the first one I have is 3/8. So we're going to take out our calculator again, and we're going to do 3 divided by 8, and I am getting 0.375. So I have 0.375. Okay, since I have 3 decimal places, the next one I have is 1/4. So I'm going to take 1 divided by 4, and I end up getting 0.25. Now, since I have 3 decimal places for the first one, I'm going to use 3 decimal places for the second one. And then the last one I have is 7/8, so we're going to take 7 divided by 8, and I get 0.875. So now that I have my 3, now I'm going to put them in correct order. Okay, so we're going to go from least to greatest, and you go from smallest to largest. So the smallest one, so I like to think of these as whole numbers. This is 375, 250, and 875. So obviously 0.250 would be the smallest one. Next up would be the 0.375. And once I've used them, I like to cross them out. That way I know that I already have used them. And then the last one is 0.875. Okay, now we need to convert them back to their original form. So the 0.25 correlates with the 1/4. So instead of 2.25, I'm going to put 1/4. 0.375 goes with 3/8. And the 0.875 goes with the 7/8. So my answer would be 1/4, 3/8, and 7/8, and that's putting the numbers in order from least to greatest. Okay, let's work on number 11. So draw my line through my commas. That way I can differentiate between them a little easier. And I'm going to write them out to convert them to decimals. So -10, great. It's already converted. Leave it as -10. 2, already converted. Leave it as 2. It's negative square root of 3. So the negative sign doesn't go inside. Obviously the negative sign is outside, right? So in my calculator, I'm going to literally type that out. I'm going to put negative, and again, the negative is down here. This is not negative, this is minus. This is the negative sign in parentheses down here. So I have negative, and I'm going to do second x squared to give me my square root symbol, and I'm going to put a 3 there. And when I press enter, it'll give me my correct answer. I have negative 1.73. I'm going to go to 2 decimal places for this one. So negative 1.73. Okay, the next one is negative 0.5. Okay, great. We'll leave that as is. I'm going to use 2 decimals. Then 5/16. So again, we're going to pull out the calculator, do 5 divided by 16, and I'm getting 0.3125. I'm only going to do the 2 decimal places, so 0.31. Now I need to put them in order from least to greatest. So with negative values are always going to be smaller than positive values, right? So my negative value should come first. So I'm going to be looking at negative 10, negative 1.73, and negative 0.5 to be my first 3 numbers. With negative values, they work opposite. So the larger the negative number, the smaller it is, right? The closer the number is to 0, the larger its value. So I have negative 10. Okay, well, negative 10 and negative 1.73 and negative 0.5. Negative 10 is going to be my first one because that is my smallest value. It is the furthest away from 0. My second one is going to be negative 1.73 because negative 0.5 is closer to 0 than negative 1.73. And the next one would be the only negative I have left, which would be negative 0.5. Okay, now I have my 2 positives. So we're still going from least to greatest. So this time we're positive numbers, it works the way you think. The closer it is to 0, the smaller it is. Right, so hopefully we recognize 0.31 is going to be definitely smaller than 2. Right, 0.31 would be my next one, and then my last one is 2. Now I need to convert them back to their original form. Alright. So negative 10 is going to stay as negative 10 because that's what it already looked like originally. Negative 1.73 correlated with the negative square root of 3. Negative 0.5 was already negative 0.5. 0.31 was the 5/16. And 2 was 2. So that would be my answer right there. Okay, we're going to do one more. I'm going to do number 12 for y'all. Draw a line through the commas. Okay, start off with 4 squared. 4 squared, right, we can simplify that. 4 squared, or 4 times 4, would be 16. Square root of 15. Pull out your calculator. Second, x squared, 15, and I get 3.87. I'm going to do it to 2 decimal places. I think that'll be good enough. Let's go 3.87. Okay, negative 5 over 2. Great, get out your calculator again. Negative 5 divided by 2, and I get negative 2.5. Negative 2 1/3. Now this is a proper fraction. Okay, so the negative 2 goes in front of the decimal, right? Because that's the whole number, that's the decimal. So the negative 2 is the whole number, and the 1/3 is the decimal. So I can start off with negative 2 point something, right? And the 1/3 would be my decimal. So I'm going to take this and do 1 divided by 3, and I should get 0.333 repeating. So again, I'm going to go to 2 decimal places. Forgot to put the 0 there next to the point, negative 2.5. It's going to be negative 2.33. And then the last one, 1/16. Again, get out your calculator. 1 divided by 16, and I get 0.0625. So we say 0.06. Now, again, we're going from least to greatest. So negative should always come first. Well, I only have 2 negative values, either negative 2.5 or negative 2.33. And then remember, the further away the negative is from 0, the smaller its value. Okay, the bigger the number, the smaller the value. So in this case, negative 2.5 and negative 2.33, okay, this is going to be the smaller value, because if I were to put them on the number line, right, if I were to draw out my number line, this is 0, this is negative 2, okay, I would put negative 2.33 I would put negative 2.33 about right here, and negative 2.5 about right there. So obviously the negative 2.5 is further away from the 0, making it smaller. So negative 2.5 would come first. Next would be the negative 2.33 because it's the only other negative left. Now we go back to the positive. They work like normal. So what's the smallest one? 16, 3.87, or 0.06? Hopefully we all know and recognize that's going to be the 0.06. The next smaller is 16 or 3.87 smaller. Well, hopefully we know 3.87 is a lot smaller than 16. And the last one we're going to write is the 16. Now we need to convert them back to their original form. So negative 2.5 went with this negative 5 over 2. Negative 2.33 went with the square root of 15, I believe. No, I lied. Negative 2.33 went with the negative 2 and 1/3. The 0.06 went with the 1/16. 3.87 went with the square root of 15. And 16 went with 4 squared. So that would be my answer, from least to greatest. Okay, we're going to do one more. Over here now. Okay, let's work on number... Let's do number 15. Okay, so I have... First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert them to their decimals. Now the whole goal here is for me to label them correctly on the number line. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 3 halves. Well, 3 halves, we do 3 divided by 2, and I'm going to end up getting 1.5. I'm going to go to 2 decimal places just to be safe. Oh, forgot to draw my line through my commas. Next up is 2 squared. Well, 2 squared is 2 times 2. That would be 4. The square root of 2. Pull out your calculator. Second, x squared, 2. That takes the square root of 2. I get 1.41. 2.2, so that'd be 2.20, and then negative 2 is the last one. Now the trick to this, okay, make it a little easier on yourself. You could label these and then label it as 1.5, label it as 4, label it as 1.41, so on and so forth. But what I like to do to make my life a little easier is I call them A, B, C, D, and E. And that way when I put them on a number line, I know where they go. So A, 1.5, so I'm at 0, I'm going to go 1, so it's positive, so I'm going to go to right 1 time, and then halfway between 1 and 2. That's going to be point A. B is 4, so I'm going to go to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to label that as B. C is 1.41, well this is 1.5. 1.41 would be just a little bit smaller than that. We'll label that as C. D is 2.2, so we go 1, 2.2. We'll label that as D. And the last one, E, would be negative 2. So now we're going to go the negative direction, negative 1, negative 2, and that would be E. And that's all that is for that, guys. It's pretty simple. You convert them to decimals, you give them a label, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, okay, and then you put them on the number line where they would belong. And that's it. That's all I got for y'all today on comparing and ordering numbers. Please pay attention for any worksheets or notes or anything like that I may post later today.